I'm Dan Persons, and this is my Hour of the Wolf review. The previous chapter of the Star Wars saga, The Last Jedi, ended on a tantalizing image. A young child spreading the lore of Luke Skywalker among his companions and actually furtively using the Force himself. It seemed to lay the groundwork for a finale, the ultimate finale, capping a trilogy of trilogies that would set the Skywalker saga on a mythic scale, with the evil First Order finally being vanquished as the noble Jedi belief in justice and honor spread among the oppressed and across the universe. Well, bleep all that. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, can't be bothered with any of it, being instead a kind of overstuffed remake of The Return of the Jedi, which was pretty well stuffed to begin with. This, unfortunately, is one of those films that gets worse the more you think about it. That may not have been a problem for director/co-writer J.J. Abrams or anyone at Lucasfilm or Disney, since I don't think thought was their main goal. Their sights set apparently on the visceral thrill of closing the Book of Skywalker in the biggest, most action-packed, most all-encompassing way possible. I guess they achieved their objective, but in the most graceless fashion imaginable. Honestly, I've never seen a panic attack on film before, but The Rise of Skywalker sure feels like one. I imagine the initial meeting where Abrams pitched his concept boiled down to him breaking out in tears and screaming, "Everything! You're going to get everything, okay? Everything's going to be in it!" And then they wrote him a check and sent him on his way, and this is what we got. There's Poe and Finn and Rey and Kylo and Princess Leia, apparently through some manipulation of existing footage. And Emperor Palpatine is there. He's our big bad now, and a pretty hollow one at that. And there's an entire fleet of world killer battleships, and C-3PO and R2-D2 and BB-8, and a new droid that's cute but exists purely for marketing reasons, and Maz Kanata and Rose and Jedi Ghost Luke and an I Am Your Father beat that's much, much worse. And. It has to be hard for a filmmaker working for Disney on these mammoth franchises now, where everything has to build not just to a suitably grand culmination, but a culmination sufficiently grander than all the previous grand culminations. Rise of Skywalker has the misfortune of following hard on the heels of Avengers Endgame. And while that epic climax had its flaws, it did manage to pull all its strands together in an engaging and emotionally satisfying way. Abrams tries for that, but his operational philosophy, having taken over directing duties from Colin Trevorrow, appears to have been to tuck his head in and say, "Okay, let's just barrel through this." Not unlike what Ron Howard seemed to do when he took over Solo. I'd like to cite a specific example here, but it'd be a plot spoiler, so let me just say that it involves the death of a major character that's almost immediately rescinded. You'll know it when you see it, but it indicates Abrams trying to pull some kind of profound twist to his narrative, and clearly being pulled back by other forces. Pun not intended. The problems only get really oppressive in the third act, when too many things get slapped in just because they need to be there. The Emperor's Express goals get flipped 180 degrees without explanation. Certain characters die because they have to die, while others survive because. And Abrams attempts a rousing, uplifting beat stolen directly from the Endgame script, but hasn't worked hard enough to earn the emotions it's supposed to provoke. It doesn't really help that, upon reflection, we're given very little to care about with these main characters. I was thinking about this in anticipation of this chapter. In the original trilogy, you had a good understanding of Luke and Leia and Han and Chewie, who they were and how they related to each other. There's a certain uniformity to the characters of this final trilogy. Maybe it's that they're all pretty much the same age, that their dialogue all has the same Abrams-esque snap, but the quest of Rey, played by Daisy Ridley, to discover her origins, doesn't grab me the way Luke's attempts to redeem his father did, and Finn and Poe's, John Boyega and Oscar Isaac respectively, interactions don't quite click in the way Han and Chewie's did. What Skywalker has going for it is how consistently beautiful it is. The effects, and I don't think there's a shot in this film that doesn't have effects, are not just big, they're carefully composed and unleashed. The landscapes have grand scope. The action sequences are mounted so you never lose track of where you are or what's going on. That's in keeping with my thought that Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, is a film meant more to be reacted to than thought about. In terms of spectacle, it's a promise kept at least. But void of any compelling narrative, that's a pretty hollow promise. For Hour of the Wolf, I'm Dan Persons.